You don't need a college degree to start a business. Hi, this is Jim Gibson with Business Sense Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about what do you need as far as education or certifications to start a business. Now, just to start out with this, I want to explain that I have a master's degree in business administration. And obviously, therefore, I have to have a bachelor's degree. So I have experience in college and getting a traditional education. But I think more and more, the colleges are becoming irrelevant. A lot of the courses that they're requiring from students to take are a waste of time. They're not going to help you in business. They're not going to help you in life. They're just a waste of money and time. And if you're going to go to college, count the cost. As everything else in life, count the cost. It's going to take you 4 years if you do it full time. That means 4 years you're not making money. It also means 4 years that you have to pay money to live, to do different things and all. And I think that colleges are becoming more irrelevant as the time passes. Not all colleges, by the way. There are some good programs at colleges that we will talk about today that I think you should consider. But a degree? Think it through. Do you really need that degree to be successful in college? Steve Jobs? Didn't he drop out of college? How about Zuckerberg? I don't think he finished college. I think those two individuals are very successful in what they did as far as business. Is it, what is your goal in life? Is it getting a degree so you can put that on a business card? Or is it being successful in business and making money? And we're going to talk about money in the future. I'm going to give you my opinion of it and what I think you should focus on. But in reality, if you're going to go into business, it's about making money. That's the bottom line, is making money. Okay? And if you think you need a college degree to do that, then that's fine. Think it through. Do you really need a college degree to make money, to start a business? And maybe you're not into starting a business. Maybe you want to do other things in life. Well, that's fine. And some of the things I'm going to talk about today will help you if you're an employee and if you decide not to start a business. I know that I never looked for someone who had a college degree to hire them as an employee. In fact, I had a medical doctor one time come to me, and he was tired of the medical field and he wanted to get into the IT field. I didn't hire him. He had no IT background, and I didn't consider someone in their 50s who have never been interested in IT before why I should hire them. Now, I am not here to fulfill someone's life desires. I am here to run a business and make it successful, and that's what your focus should be, successful business. And how do you rate a successful business? Well, I rate a successful business by making money, by being profitable. And again, we're going to talk about this a little bit in the future in another podcast about your viewpoint of money and what you need to do to make money. But today we're just going to talk about education, what you need to be in business, my opinion. And I've been doing this, for 40 years now, IT, most of the time as a business owner. I know I was successful in what I did, and I'm hoping the same for you. So what is your focus? Is it running a business, or is it just getting a degree? Now, there's some good things about colleges. I'm going to talk about my perspective from Southern California. But one of the best colleges I saw out there was Palomar College. In their computer science department is one of the finest that I have seen. Now, did that mean that I went for people who had degrees in IT? A bachelor's degree in IT? No, I didn't care they had a bachelor's degree in IT. I didn't even ask. What I cared about is what subjects were they learning there at Palomar. And what I would do is I would call up Palomar and I would ask them, I would say I have a paid internship in IT, and could you please post that I have openings as an intern? And I would hire 1 or 2 interns a semester, and sometimes they would hang around for years. And what I would say to them is, what courses have you taken? Well, someone would say, well, I've taken courses in Microsoft. And I say, that's fantastic, man. And others would say Cisco, taking courses in Cisco. Well, that was fantastic. And I would take these individuals and I would use them as interns. Now, I gave them flexible schedules. So if they were really busy at school that week, well, they could take the week off, no big deal. And when they had, their summer break or their spring break, I would give them extra work, and they would work with my technicians, and they would learn at the same time what the real world was like, not just theories. They would actually be able to get hands-on experience. But at the same time, the courses were excellent there at Palomar. It's a junior college, 2-year college, supposedly. Some people spend a lot more time at 2-year colleges. But the courses were excellent. So, you can learn about Cisco, you can learn about Microsoft, you can learn about networking, you can learn about programming, and all those other things. But you can also go to the college and not work on a degree, which is absolutely fine. So if you're going to go to the college and they have courses on route switch that usually involves Cisco, it might even be Cisco Academy, which is an excellent training program. Well, then you learn all about route switch, and then you get your certification. Certifications are a lot more important to me as a business owner than degrees, because certifications prove that you actually understand the subject. I don't know what you learn on your degree. I mean, some of the courses that some of these interns had to take that were outside of the computer field, I just shook my head. Why in the world would you spend money on that? Why do you need a degree? To be honest with you. Again, Zuckerberg, does he have a degree? I think he's pretty successful. Steve Jobs, he was pretty successful. He dropped out of school and was very successful. So what is your definition of success? Is it getting a degree, or is it running a business? How about this? Making money should be your goal. Not just running a business. There's a lot of businesses that are running. Within a few years, they're out of business because they don't make a profit. But anyway, I'm off the subject, so let's get back on there. So, it's one of the things, if you go to these classes in these junior colleges that maybe you have in your area, make sure that the class will also prepare you for the certification exam. And then don't be a slouch, man. Work on your certification. So if you're in class and they're teaching you how to do route switch, let's say, well, that's fantastic. But that's not going to help you unless you pass the certification exam with Cisco. And Cisco is the most popular router switches out there, and it's sort of like the standard when it comes to networking. You can also take courses on cybersecurity. Now, let's say you're a high school student and you want to get involved in IT, and you don't know where to start. Well, let me give you a course action here. CompTIA, CompTIA, is an organization that publishes and maintains certifications in different areas. And they are what you call, and they do not teach just Cisco or Juniper or anything else like that. They're kind of agnostic when it comes to manufacturers. But one of the first things you should consider is A+. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I've taken A+, that's really basic. But if you're a high school student and you've never been involved in IT, start with A+. It's a great course. I used to think that CompTIA stuff was kind of light duty. And I've changed my mind. It's kind of serious stuff to start with. So do your A+. I have. I did my A+ many years ago, and when I was a young man. And then from there, you do your Network Plus. And network, it will teach you about network switches, routers, firewalls, things like that. These are things you need to know. And it's very basic stuff, but at the same time, it's more information that you need to know. And I'm surprised how many people in IT don't know the basic stuff. And then from there, you get your Security Plus, things like that. Then once you get all those type of CompTIA stuff out of the way, then you go on to other things, like you work on your MCSE, Microsoft certifications, or you go on to Cisco and you get your CCNA. Either route switch, they call it RS route switch, CCNA route switch, or CCNA security. These are all good things. Now it's going to be more focused on programming Cisco equipment, but Cisco is pretty much the standard when it comes to networks. So if you understand how to do Cisco, you're going to understand everything else in networks. Then at the same time, some of the hands-on stuff. So you get these one or two of these certifications under your wing. Now you can go to an employer and say, "Hey, I got this certification, and I'd like to work for you." As a story, I remember years ago, this guy, came to me, and he looked like a kid, man. He looked like he was about 12 years old, 13 years old. He's a little bit older than that. But he came to me and he says, I'm a CCNA, and I was surprised. He showed me his certification to prove it. And he says, I'd like a job with you. And I said, well, I really need someone that's a CCNA in voice over IP. And he said, okay. He walked out. And then like 5 weeks later, he came back and he said, I just passed my test CCNA in VoIP. I was impressed. And I said, how old are you? And he said, 18. Well, I kind of felt obligated to hire him. Man, I was impressed that he could get that certification in 1 month. I couldn't get that certification that fast. And he worked with me for many, many years, and we became friends, and he was a fantastic person. And he got some decent jobs with the IRS and was paid pretty decent for a guy under 20, 21, something like that. He only worked for me for a couple of years. We still remained friends. But the idea was I hired him because he had the certifications. He didn't have a degree, by the way. I hired him because he had the certifications. Certifications to me prove you could do the work, or at least you knew the concepts behind the work, and I could teach you the day-to-day stuff. At the same time, I remember I had a 40-year-old guy come to me, and when he came to me, he wanted a job in IT, and I said, well, fantastic. And I said, let's talk a little bit about it, okay? I said, you're 40, 45 years old. Why do you want a job in IT? He said, because it just sounds really interesting. And I said, well, do you have any experience in IT? And he said, well, back in the 80s, my sister got me a free program for the government in taking apart computers. And I said, well, great. I said, so did you do anything with it? And he said, well, I tried to work for one of those Best Buys, or I forget the name of the company, he said. But something, to make a long story short, they didn't pay him much, so I went out and did other things. I said, well, what have you been doing for the last 2 years? Because now I'm asking what have you been doing? You want to be in IT? So have you been studying IT? Have you been doing certifications, things like that? That was what I meant in the question. And, of course, he got all excited, and he said, oh, yeah, I've been working on the side painting, and I've been making lots of money painting. And I said, okay, so what are you doing? I thought you were on unemployment for 2 years, and you're coming to me because your unemployment is up. And he said, yeah, but I made lots of money in the last 2 years. And he said, thank you for this opportunity to interview with you. And I said, no problem. Thank you for your time. And he says, well, can you be honest with me? I'm really curious. He goes, I interview with a lot of people. No one never goes any further than this. Is it, could you tell me if you're going to hire me? And I said, okay, against my better judgment, I will tell you. And I said, no, I'd never hire you. In fact, I'd hire a high school student who had no experience in life at all coming through the front door than I would hire you. And he said, why? And I said, well, the reason why is that you're really not interested in IT. If you were, you'd be taking courses. You would have taken courses many times since, now that you're in your 40s. And, on top of that, if you're really serious about it, in the last 2 years, you got laid off 2 years ago. Yeah, you would have taken courses since then if you wanted to be in IT. And I said, lastly, I would not hire you because you're a thief. You're a thief. And he said, what do you mean I'm a thief? I said, well, you've been stealing from me for the last 2 years. I said, he said, well, what do you mean stealing from you? I said, well, I had to pay that unemployment insurance. And I said, the whole time you've been taking money under the table and not paying taxes on it. You're not being fair to the program. I said, I have to pay the taxes on those things. And if you're going to steal from the government, you're going to steal from me. So make a long story short, he got really ticked. And then, of course, one of my other employees reminded me I have lots of windows in my warehouse. So, well, I told him the truth. Maybe it would help him out that if he's really serious about being in IT, you need to put some time in and learn about IT. I don't know how many employees I had that they would come to me and they would say, I want a raise. And I say, fantastic, I give you a raise. Get this certificate, get this certification in CCNA. I'll help you with it. I actually taught classes at night to any employee that would show up. I would teach them all about CCNA, route switch, and how to pass the exam. Very few took me up on that option. But those who wanted a future in IT were the ones that did. And I did have some that would take one certification after another, and every time they passed the certification, I would give them a raise because they became more valuable to my company. Just showing up every day and punching in doesn't add value to a business. But studying on your own and showing motivation that you want to get ahead in life and that you want to learn more about IT, that's the employee I wanted. And they're the employees I kept. And they're the employees I encouraged. But those who were not interested enough to spend an hour a night or a couple hours on a Saturday learning a new subject, they were the ones I weren't interested in. And they were never going to go anywhere. So every time they showed up and they said, hey, I need a raise, or I'd like to get a raise, I haven't had a raise in years, things like that, I'd say, yeah, I'll give you a raise. Get the certification. So now you're going to start a business, right? The most important thing in a business, I'm going to be honest with you, is being profitable. If you don't focus on profit, and if you don't do it honestly, I'm not saying do anything illegally, provide a service that makes your company profitable. And if you do not make a profit, you will go out of business. I can tell you right now that 90% of the companies that go out of business is because they're focusing on everything else except delivering a service so they can legitimately make a profit. So if you're thinking of going into business, get the training that you need to be in business. And some of the oddball things too. You need to learn things like QuickBooks. It's a program where it keeps track of all your expenses. And you're not in business yet, but you can take a course on QuickBooks. You can pick up a book to learn about it. I know one of the weaknesses in my life is that I don't know enough about QuickBooks. I should be able to run my own books. I used to run my own books, but it's been many, many years. And I think that has caused me more grief, not knowing QuickBooks. Because if I have a bookkeeper taking care of things, I have to trust that person to do the right thing. And I don't know enough to train on that. And that's one of my goals, by the way, is to learn QuickBooks in the future. So you got to learn all these things. You should work for someone else for a while to learn the business. You got to realize that that businesses sometimes may appear to you to be very profitable, but they are not. I'll give you an example. I had an employee who, I would tell him, well, this is a new customer that we're going to do lots of cabling with and things like that. So, when you're done, they're going to hand you a check. Ask for the check because they already know they're supposed to pay you. And the guy one time came back and he was looking at the check and he's looking at me and he's holding the check out in front of him between his, hands, and he's looking and he's looking. And he says, man, you make lots of money. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, I worked there for 8 hours and I only made this much money. And he says, well, I'm looking at this check and you've made all this money. Well, he didn't think about the liability insurance. He didn't think about the truck he was driving. He didn't think about my side of the taxes that I had to pay and the unemployment, the workers' comp, the insurance on the trucks, the time and effort it took to get that customer. Because I could look at that check and say, in reality, I lost money. It may look like I made lots of money, but I lost money to keep that customer. So I can keep them as a customer, and 6 months from now, I can sell them something else. You have to have the education. Just don't jump into it because you're all excited about starting a business. Make sure you do your due diligence. You do your investigations, things like that. So, and on top of that, that involves the training. So if you're working for a IT company that provides IT services to other businesses, that's probably the best place to be, to learn the IT company. But, to help that person out through your self-study, things like that, that's an excellent way to go. And then secondly, learn the business stuff you have to know. Learn accounting. I know it sounds mundane and it doesn't sound very interesting, and you're going to hire someone else to do it. Well, even if you hire someone else to do it, you got to know it yourself. That's been one of my weaknesses that I would always recommend. You got to learn that. So you have to do all those things. But something else too, and we're going to talk about this in a future podcast in detail. You got to have goals with time frames. You could spend your whole life talking about starting a business and never start a business because you never set time frames on your goals. You never researched what you need to do to get to each of those goals. It's just easier sometimes to sit back on a Saturday morning and watch TV, or to relax, or to go golfing, or to do other things, rather than think through what you're going to do in the future and how you're going to do it. But with that idea, also think through, why would you waste your time at college if you're going to go into business? It may be a waste of time. That's your decision, by the way. So take responsibility for your own decisions. And we'll talk about that in the future also. But the bottom line is, do you really need to learn some of the stupid stuff that colleges now teach? Or are you there to be focused on learning IT, learning on how to be a business owner that you can learn in a college setting? Yes, you can go to college to learn, Cisco and Microsoft, the two big things, and at the same time learn accounting and things like that. And you don't need a degree to start a business. Hey, if these podcasts are working for you and you're really getting a lot out of them, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Make some comments on it. Tell me other subjects you would like me to cover in the future, and I'd be more than happy to do that. Again, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for listening to my podcast, Business Sense. You have a great day.